And this is the guy that we've had some people clamoring for us to talk about him. And here we are talking about him. Joe Milton. Now, in case you're wondering, in the video, the football was not actually on fire. That was CGI added by someone. I don't know whoever created that GIF that we're using. But yeah, not on fire. It's okay.
Big corporate fire extinguisher companies.
No, I want a fire extinguisher. You never know what happened.
Go buy it. Yeah. You might need it, kid. Yeah, see here?
Now, here we go with yet another guy who changed schools. I'm going to give you guys a little fair warning. There's literally one guy in this entire list we're going to go over today that did not change schools. That's how crazy everything has gotten in college. Joe Milton played the last 3 seasons over at Tennessee. Prior to that was 3 seasons over at Michigan. So he's been in school for 6 years in total here, guys. 6'5", 235 pounds, 24 years old. In 22, keep in mind he was a backup in 22 to Hendon Hooker. 9 games, 64.6 completion percentage, 971 yards, 10 touchdowns. That's insane. 10 touchdowns and just 971 yards. Yeah. 0 interceptions, 204.3 passer efficiency rating. This past season, 12 games, 64.7 completion percentage, 2,813 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, a 147.3 passer efficiency rating, and a 77.6 PFF grade overall. Definitely respectable numbers here. Here's where I get my biggest issue. And I'll get to the pros and cons with him in a second here. And I know we got some fans of the show that are pretty big on Joe Milton. I've heard the name multiple times in the comment section saying, Joe Milton, Joe Milton, Joe Milton. Yeah, I got to say, I'm not a big, huge fan of what I see out of Joe Milton. And here's part of my concerns I have. The guy's been in college 6 years. Can you really sit there and say he dominated in those 6 years?
No. I mean, you look back at his 2 years. Yeah, those are some pretty good numbers. They're not great numbers. And also, his best year was as a backup. You look at all his stats.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not that massive of a fan from what I see there at that point. Now, I also look at the fact that, compared to who he had before him, before he went to Tennessee, before he started Tennessee this past season, the year before was Hendon Hooker, who was a Heisman candidate, was a guy who, point blank, if it wasn't for, the bad injury he had late in the year, probably been a 1st or 2nd round pick. Ends up being a 3rd round pick instead. But here's Hendon Hooker's numbers in the same exact offense. Keep in mind, obviously, there's a couple of receivers that went out as well. I get it. It's more than just the quarterback that makes it. I'm not trying to make it seem 100% like that. But the concern I have is things went down. They weren't as efficient. They weren't as good. He had almost 70% completion percentage, over 3,100 yards, 27 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 175.5 passer efficiency rating. That's a lot better of a number.
Yeah.
Now, Hendon Hooker is only 1 year in the league and hasn't played at all. So that also hurts a little bit too. You're like, okay, well, you haven't even seen Hendon Hooker, what he can do in the league. So how do you compare what you think this guy can do based on what Hendon Hooker did in college, what he did in college? But when you were a downgrade when you came in as a starter in college, I can't look at you as a possible upgrade. I also look at the fact that, again, he's been 6 years in college, guys. If he was like 21 years old and didn't play much, okay, maybe I'd take a shot. But he's 24, guys. I think he's the same age as DJ. Like, maybe 1 year difference. Like,
yeah, I think it's 1 year difference.
Yeah, I think DJ's 25 now, right?
Yeah, I believe so. It
or
will be
26.
25 for the season.
Yeah. Okay, Daniel Jones is 26.
Okay.
He's actually going to turn 27 soon.
Oh,
So
way
we're
off.
both wrong. We're both wrong on that one there.
Way off.
Way off, exactly.
Yeah.
But
well, the thing is with Milton, listen, he's a big guy. He's got the statue of a quarterback that's going to start in the NFL. But the thing is, he doesn't produce to the stature of what you want in the NFL.
No.
In college, he sits there in the pocket sometimes too long. He gets flustered sometimes, and he doesn't throw to the numbers. Sometimes he throws to the crotch.
Let's go into the pros and cons, because you're kind of going into the pros and cons before we. You got to go into it without going into it. So let's get into the pros and cons there. You can do the pros and cons if you want to say. Let's get that section done with then.
I mean, I guess I already started. I'm just saying,
you did start. You start rating the cons, negative Nancy.
Well, because I was going to make a point. Sometimes he sits in the pocket. Sometimes, he gets a little flustered. He throws down to the belt line, more towards the numbers where you want to place it perfectly.
He's gotten the ball batted down a lot. If you look at the tape in college too, like a lot of times, defensive linemen just throw their hands up because he throws so low, and they just go for it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 6'5", you shouldn't be thrown down.
No, well, you should, but not necessarily that far down.
Correct. So, his ball placement's not there. He kind of reminds me of, and who's the Bengals quarterback, second string quarterback that played this past year when Joe Burrow went down?
Oh, what's his name? Oh, my
exactly
God,
where I always get at my negative Nancy-ness. Joe Milton, it will probably be a really great backup in this league. I should say great.
Jake Browning.
Jake Brown. You're right.
Yeah.
He can get the job done in the good system. But I mean, like I said, we're going over the pros, I guess, because I started negative. He's got
let's be positive too. There's positive.
Yeah, I'm going to end on a positive note. He's got the statue. He's got the size. You want that
He's
6.
Got the looks.
Exactly. 35. That's like a perfect quarterback. 225, 235, in that ballpark.
Yeah,
that's
6'5". It's like just tall enough that any taller you go, he's too tall, which is weird that they have that.
Yeah,
that they do. I remember when Brock Osweiler came out. He's 6'7". That's way too tall. I'm like, you say everybody else is too short. What the hell? Stay in your lane.
He sees over line. He sees fairly well.
Yeah.
And then he does scramble when things do get in the pocket where he's might get sacked, but he gets out of the pocket, but he overthinks the pocket. I went right back.
I mean, I think the big thing is the people fall in love with this is cannon arm, because he does. He's got a cannon for an arm. There's no doubt that if you put up all the guys, if you put all the guys who are considered the top 10 quarterbacks here that we're talking about today, he probably has the strongest arm of all these guys. But what it boils down to is his placement is off. He throws the ball too low. There's a lot of issues with that same throwing. And my biggest issue, like I said, is I look at the production he had this year compared to what Hendon Hooker had the year before. I look at the fact that he's 24 years old, and I say, what's there to do? Where are we going? I'm going to develop this guy for 2 years so he could be a 26-year-old guy starting his first game?
Yeah, and my thing too is we just talked about his arm strength, and he has a cannon. Yes. He's got a hyper cannon. But you know who else had a hyper cannon in the past 10, 15 years? Jamarcus Russell. Who remembers Jamarcus Russell? Drafted by the Raiders. Throws the bomb.
Yeah, he's got a strong arm.
70 yards. But didn't have good ball placement.
Nope.
He lasted with the Raiders a whole 3 years?
I'm just going to say this. I don't think Joe Milton is necessarily Jamarcus Russell.
I'm not saying that.
I think he's a guy that somebody's going to see the value in trying to develop him, because there's always that one guy. I swear, especially when it comes to quarterbacks, head coaches are like guys who can't get a date. I can fix her. That's the way. Like I don't have a quarterback. Look at this quarterback. I can fix him.
Yeah.
Like he's 24. He is what he is at this point. I'm sorry. Like developmental quarterback when he's almost halfway to 30. That's an issue. That's an issue. Get a younger developmental quarterback and move on. Unless it's a guy with like one or two issues, or a guy that was insanely good in college, like blew away the competition. So
Yes.
like I said, I would take a hard pass on Joe Milton myself personally. I can seriously people get enamored with the possibility because you can't teach what he has as far as the size and arm strength. You can't. You either have it or you don't. But it takes more than size and arm strength to be a quarterback. Otherwise, he'd be a damn good one.
Correct. He should go to the WWE. I hear that.
Oh, yeah, there we go. There we go.
Thanks for listening to Two Giant Goofballs, a New York Giants podcast. We appreciate your support.
Thanks so much.